Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Wednesday Leading Change episode this week with Ludmila Reyter. Hi Ludmila, welcome back.
Hey Vasco.
So Ludmila, on Wednesdays we talk about change because change really is one of the things that we are constantly working with as Scrum Masters. So take a minute, tell us a story of a change process you were involved with. Maybe it was an agile adoption process or just a team change or even an individual personal change. Whatever that might be, walk us through that story and highlight specifically the tools, the tips, the tricks, the techniques you learned back then that you still apply today.
Okay. Actually, I needed to think a little bit about when you said change process, because how I see it, you're most of the time stuck in the kind of change process without sometimes even realizing it. And you just see afterwards, oh, actually, there was something that I did that worked out quite well. But yes, so in my first company, I think all of us adopted Scrum just by on the job, learning on the job. So we didn't really have a lot of infos about it. So we just started to read and just trying things out. At that time, we had our development teams and the development process, and the teams were highly dependent on each other because of this system that they were working in. We had a highly regulated Jira and like a lot of processes. And we also needed time. So as the Scrum Masters themselves, we needed time to actually understand what this Agile is actually all about. So we went 2 years within this learning phase, where we also then had not only the Scrum events, for instance, but like a lot of other meetings, because as I said before, we were highly regulated teams. They needed to sync at a lot of times, and breaking this up was then kind of the first big thing that we needed to do. However, I was also really lucky to then start with a new team, completely on greenfield. And they came to me and said, okay, Ludmila, please, no meetings. Let's just not have any meetings, please.
That's a great request. By the way, I've heard that a lot as well.
Yes. So I said, yes, of course, let's just start, and we come together every day and we just see what we need to do. But of course, parallelly, I set up some sessions also about Kanban. So we played the Get Kanban game together. We talked a little bit about those principles. We talked about the Toyota story to just have some other input for the brain as well. And step by step, we actually then set up the meetings that we needed with the tools that we needed at the time. So we dismissed Jira and just worked with a physical board. And one of our developers was really not happy about it. It took a while until he was also able to understand why he wanted Jira for himself. So he just needed some place for documentation or where he just puts his notes. And he was also before really careful about what he wrote in there. And I think he was just missing this kind of digital aspect of his work. So we found something else that he could then use, or the teams then used instead, and got a bit clearer on actually why we use tools for what reason. And yes, so one person also came to me one day, and this was actually someone who I have worked with together in another team before. And he has always been more a skeptic and always wanted to discuss a lot about why do we need to have a retro now, and what is actually happening. But maybe even because he was a skeptic and we were able to have discussions about it, he also later became a really good ally rather than someone who would sabotage my meeting.
You know, that's also my experience. The people who are skeptics at first very often turn out to be the fiercest defenders of agile adoption later on.
Exactly. And so after I think 1 or 2 months already into this new team setup, he approached me and said, "Yes, Ludmila, I think we need a retro. Can you please hold a retro for me?" And I was like, "Yes."
That's definitely a good point in a Scrum
Yeah.
Master's career.
And yeah, so I was just also glad to see this individual change with him, but also to kind of experience something new, some new team dynamic with this new team. And there was another person who has been really shy, always really polite. Also, I think out of another cultural background, who in this new team, by the time that I left and then that also he left, got a really confident leader for his team. And this was just so great to see how the team evolved and just working together independently. And actually, one thing I did, which is might be really obvious for some, but we didn't really do it at that time. As I said before, we were just learning on the job. Was that they started to run their own dailies, as simple as it is, made them work together much better. And it was a really great time to observe this. So yeah, so this is the one story, and at the same,
Before we
yeah,
go into another story, I wanted to highlight a couple of things here and hear your perspective. From this story, I have two things that come to mind as one or as two in this case key tools for Scrum Masters in a change process. So the first one, it sounded to me that you started with the perspective of being patient, right? You listened to
yes,
the team. They said, we don't want any meetings, and you said, fine, let's move on and start doing the work because that's what matters. And then the other thing, the second thing was this aspect of being deliberate, right? Which you illustrated very well in this conversation with that skeptic team member who eventually was the one asking for retros.
mm.
What do you think about those two aspects, being patient and being deliberate?
I'm really happy about the first one. So I think a lot of these things just take time. So whether you're now in a new setup and you do things differently, or you're just with your usual team and you see, okay, maybe there's some little things that we could work on, or whatever it actually is. I think it is good to also tell the people that you work with that things will take time, that you need to also build trust before you can actually start with some change initiatives, or actually need also the time for yourself to observe and see how things are actually coming together. And maybe there's already a solution somewhere, but when I'm already jumping in after 15 seconds, then I don't even give the space to others to find their own role within, because I'm already kind of putting me in there as a solution. And so taking myself back and seeing, okay, I'm actually not needed that much, which is great. um, yeah, I'm really, really happy with that. And you mentioned being deliberate. I'm happy if my teams see me as someone that they can come to and ask for support when they already know what they want, or ask for advice, or just seeing me in the role that I actually also want to be in. So in the beginning, in the first company, because we were also the first ones who then started with the post-its and with drawing nice retro formats. So we were sometimes a bit, well, not laughed at, but we are the ones with the colorful stuff. And yes, oh, you're already coloring again. Oh, that's a fun time to fun way to spend your time. But it was a bit, we didn't really want to have this kind of role, being like the kindergarteners with the colorful pens. So we also started to change actually the way that we want to be perceived in the company. We started an agile path with sessions about agile. So we had 5 Scrum Masters at that time. We had 5 sessions every month for the whole company, where we had our book club, where we learned where we could actually evolve to. So what is actually this agile coaching now? Where is it differ from from the Scrum Master job? we were setting up more visible communication channels within the company, like a knowledge board where everyone could put on requests, or sugar cubes where you could give everyone nice feedback at the end of the year, and actually also started to go to other departments because they then saw what we were doing and really liked it and said, okay, wow, this looks really valuable. Can you please come to our teams and do this as well? And also had this kind of open days where everyone came together. So these were really valuable and good experiences to also show what we can do other than putting up post-its.
Thank you very much for sharing those stories with us, Ludmila.
You're welcome.
Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role, we'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.